Hi, I'm Eric Houston, and welcome to In Focus. This month we'll be focusing in on Art Beat with producer Linda Davis. Although it only began production 3 years ago, Art Beat has quickly become a staple of the NMTV airwaves, featuring intimate looks at local painters, poets, musicians, and every other facet of the creative spirit. Let's take a look.
The time is right to figure out what we gonna do. There's a situation the people face. Let's pray they step on through. For all those folks who have no place they can call home. No shoes, no clothes, no residence, nothing on earth they own. We got to come together, people, people of every nation, every tongue, and every tribe. We got to feel the same vibe. We got to feed the people, give them what they need, yeah. Feed the people, open your eyes and see. Feed the people, give them what they need, yeah. Feed the people, open your eyes and see. Mother, mother, hear the children cry. Father, father, wish you were in my life. Help us, oh help us to believe in something we can achieve. We got to come together, people, people of every nation, every tongue, every tribe. We got to feel the same vibe. We got to feed the people, give them what they need, yeah. Feed the people, open your eyes and see.
All right, welcome Linda, welcome to In Focus.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the show. First question for you, what brought you to NMTV in the first place? Let's start there.
Art.
Okay.
Simply art.
Okay. Elaborate, please.
Videotaping is a form of art,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to do something that would promote artists
Mm-hmm.
and art.
Okay.
It was going to be a different type venue, and then it just progressed when we got the group.
How did you get started at NMTV?
I first got started at NMTV when the other Eric was here, and Michelle.
Eric Otzelberger.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Eric with an A.
Mm-hmm.
And took a class, and we started up Art Beat, but we did not have the right mix of people. It wasn't a team,
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell that from the very beginning, and I knew not to let it go any further.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to be stressful.
Okay. And when was this? Was you said when a couple before I started here?
Right, back in the old building where you had to use your umbrella when it rained.
Okay. So what was this, like 6 years ago?
Oh, many more years than
Okay.
that. Over 10,
Okay. So wow. So 10 years.
yes.
And so you made the try at the show, and you didn't produce any episodes?
No.
did you? What got you going this time?
Damien.
Okay.
Damien kept on, every time he saw me, because I would come down, just check out and renew, the skills that I had, because if you don't use them, you totally forget them, and even as often as we use them, you still forget some of the things. So I wanted to keep current with what I had learned and retake the classes. And Damien also came out and he interviewed me a couple of times
Okay.
in relation to my art.
Okay. And Damien's our outreach coordinator, and he did some of what I do before I started working
Right.
here. So you took the classes again with him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I took the classes again with you, and I still have a lot to learn. And Damien, and with your help too, you connected us with the right people.
Okay.
And we've got a really good crew.
Yeah, you do. You have a spectacular
Yes,
crew.
a very good crew.
And so, yeah, I know that Damien and I suggested people to you. So, where did you go from this? So we gave you a few names, and then.
Well, I used to be in human resources, so I know how to interview people and know if they're a good mix. And I had a couple key things. I wanted to be quality and fun.
Okay. And so you were looking for people who would do that. You found them. And so who are those people?
Rick Bostrom, Mark Steensgaard, And then my son, too. My son took the classes back with me, Steve Carlson, a while back, too, so.
Okay. And so you guys are all together, and what do each of them bring to the show?
Together, we're a fantastic team. We've got many, many different talents. Rick is fantastic with editing and directing. Mark is fantastic on the camera, Mark Steensgaard. Steve always is good with sound and is setting up the equipment. And I had the contact with the artist and the background in the art to carry it forward.
Okay. And is that where you see your role as being, as mainly the conduit
No.
to the art world? So what is your role, Linda?
My role is to do everything, the cameras, the editing, directing, and tell the story. But with the team, which is, I'm glad we have a team, you get very, very rusty.
Yeah.
And you don't remember everything. And then also you get rusty, too, from when you're using the cameras, and then you switch to editing, and then you're back to the cameras, you're into the studio. You need to be on it much more often than what we are right now.
Yeah. And so we've been talking about this show for a while, but we really haven't talked about it. So the show is
Artbeat.
Artbeat. And what is Artbeat?
Artbeat is a show that covers all the art genres, from dancing to art to theater to gospel music to soul, anything that has to pertain to art.
Okay. And so when you got the team together, once you met Rick and Mark and you got Steve in there, where did you go from there? How did you get started producing the show?
We jumped right in and we had Coda. Coda was a friend of mine because I had set up some art exhibitions.
Okay.
And I got them to play at that event. And I also helped them get into some other venues, so they were more than willing to come on and be our first entertainment.
And Coda is a jazz band.
Right.
Or a jazz duo.
Duo.
Yeah. And what was that? What was that first episode like? What was it like to get in there and do it for the first time?
Oh, it was phenomenal, especially knowing them as well as I did. And their sound is fantastic. People who were in the studio were going down and listening to the sound because it's so clear and so precise that I knew that it would excite the crew. And Coda was excited, and they came down a couple of times. And they even wrote our theme song for us.
And so then once you got that first episode, once you got the taping done, and was there anything about that initial taping that was difficult or that didn't go the way you expected it to go? Or
It was smoother than I had thought, but you were there to help us a lot because you didn't have a setup like down here, in the studio right now with a group, with a class.
Right. Back then we didn't have a class where people got
Right.
to do hands-on their show first. So when you guys went into the studio for the first time,
It was the first time.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of experience working the stuff in there.
And with the lights and getting them set up. The only problem was it was a long weekend and it was cold. Remember how cold it was in there?
don't.
You don't?
No.
They couldn't keep the instruments warm, but
Really?
they did a fantastic job of trying to keep them warm.
Yeah.
And Scott is so fantastic on that sax. You've heard him.
I have. And so that first episode really did set the tone for what other episodes would be, because it was a lot of music, but you also sat down and you talked to them about their creative process. Is that important to you? Is that like a mission of the show to get that?
It was important to show these talents as people, making a living and what they do and the work that they put into it, their background.
Yeah. You not only bring the artist into people's homes, but you humanize them and make us understand who they are and know who they are and care about them and their art, I think, a lot.
Well, a key thing to doing that too is that I know them. They're friends,
Yeah.
and if you know them, it's easier to tell their story.
Yeah. Well,
Or if
and-
you take time to get to know them,
Right.
you can tell a better story.
And you're an artist yourself,
Yes.
so you're part of this community. What sort of art do you do, Linda, for the people at home?
Okay, I'm a professional artist, and I work in many different mediums. I like to stretch my boundaries. I'm a writer, a cartoonist, and an art advocate.
Okay. And art advocacy is, again, obviously a big part of Art Beat, and the new show you're going to be starting up, Art Talk, which we'll talk about, I think, in the next half of the show. But what's your favorite thing to do?
Be in the studio.
Really?
I love being in the studio.
What about it do you like so much?
Well, it's more the music part, I would have to say, to clarify that.
Okay.
When you're in that studio and you're hearing this quality sound, you end up becoming one with the sound, and it just vibrates. It's a fantastic feeling.
It is. It's really cool, and it's something that I think that a lot of people, when they first hear about the station or first come here, don't think about that they can do, to bring in a live band and to record them like that. Do you think is it hard to do?
It is hard to do. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to have good talent. Because if it's not good talent, it's going to show up right away. But if it's good talent, and we've had some really fantastic set talent, you can really showcase them, and they love it here.
Yeah. Who's been your favorite guest on the program?
Coda and Robert Robinson.
And again, for the viewers at home?
Robert Robinson is a very famous gospel singer. Very, very good.
And you've recorded with him a couple of times now.
And we're going to finish up this summer, too.
Oh, yeah? You're doing something else with him? What's the plan for this summer?
The plan for this summer is to do Art Talk, get to know him and let the public know about him a little bit more. And put a combination of his music and words together.
Cool.
And hopefully he'll write, he said he would write our theme song for Art Talk.
Awesome. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a break, and let's take a look at another clip from Art Beat.
Sounds good.
All right. And that was Art Beat. Another great segment there, Linda. So let me ask you this, though. When you do stuff like that, when you do the Art Beat show, whether you have a band in, or a lot of times you go out on location to places, like where are some of the locations you've been to?
A big part of our show has taken place at the California building, where a lot of the artists are housed, with Aldo Moroni, Marcia McEachran, Kendall Bowen, and then also Marcia's friend, Michael Kincaid, who is really a fantastic poet.
And these are all big local art names.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you decide to do that, when you decide to have a band in or go talk to an Aldo or a Kincaid, how do you just, what's the process? How do you decide who you're going to have on the show and where you're going to go?
A lot of it has been at the right place at the right time. Taking classes, I've gotten into comedy, so I was able to connect with a couple comedians and bring them in. With the music venues, putting on art festivals, contact with them. At the California building, contact with the artist down there, going out to exhibitions. What is his name?
But more or
Daily.
less, it's meeting people and making friends with them.
Over the years, I didn't realize, I knew that they were very talented people, but until I started doing the interview process with the group, I didn't realize how talented they were and what an impact they have on the art community.
Yeah. And these artists that you've had on the show, whether artists that you've had on the show and even artists that haven't been on the show, just the art community, how have they responded to the show?
They love the show.
Yeah.
They thought it was fantastic. They are so willing to do whatever you need to do. In fact, Aldo, I think we've been with him 5 or 6 times, and Marcia about the same amount of time. Kendall goes, when are you going to come back and interview us?
Yeah. That's great. What does the show do for them, do you think? Like, I mean, how does the show work to get their art out into the community, I suppose?
The show, even coming out in our area, brought people down to the California building.
Great.
And they were able to make some sales, which is very important for the community, the artist community. And now that it's on the internet, it's going to help them even more. They can be directed to the website. And it's hard to make a living as an artist,
Right.
especially with the economy. It seems most have to find an extra job. But this helps give them the boost and shows their credibility.
Right. Well, and having people like you and venues like Artbeat out there, I mean, you said it earlier perfectly, it's art advocacy. It lets people know about these amazing local artists and helps them to check them out and just gets the word out. And I think maybe
Yes.
better than anything else, that's what Artbeat does the best.
Connect art and community.
Do you hear a lot from just regular, people outside of the art community who watch the show?
Yes, I do. In fact, on Facebook, there are a lot of people from around the world. We have Australia, New York, out west that connect to Facebook because of our art advocacy and because there's a venue for them to see what's going on in the community and in the art community.
Yeah. And how many Facebook friends does Artbeat have? I know it's a big number.
Almost 2,000.
That's amazing.
And it's less than a year.
That's amazing. Who's running your Facebook site?
I am.
You're doing it yourself?
Yes.
That's great. Going back to making the episodes, though, I know that a lot of the show really comes together in editing.
Oh, definitely.
Tell me about that. I mean, you guys are here every Thursday night editing, practically. So tell me about that. How does that work?
The hardest part in editing, and to help bypass that, we lay out our show in chronological order. And from that point, we have to then decide, is this telling the story? Is this part of the story? And oftentimes some of our favorite pieces have to go because they're not telling the story.
Right, they're just superfluous, or or worse yet, they're somehow dragging the story
Right.
down or getting in
And
the
they
way
do.
of being clear. Yeah.
And less is more.
Yep.
In fact, the one show that you helped us with, because I really wanted a really great piece because it was for Springboard for the Arts.
Which is?
But their Bounce Bash, which is one of the biggest art organizations in the state of Minnesota. And I wanted it to be good, and it was good advertising, not just for Artbeat, but for the art community and for the television station.
Right.
And we condensed almost an hour's worth of program down to 5 minutes,
And
which is a lot of cutting.
It is a lot of cutting, but what's the finished product like then?
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you helped us with it too. It just, we used the soundtrack of the one piece of music that we had clear sound. And we had trouble because most of that program too was all B footage because the sound system hiccuped.
Yeah. But you guys did an amazing job with it, and I mean, I appreciate you saying that I helped, but really I didn't do anything more than I ever do, which is to sit down and listen to you guys and find out what you want the program to be and then help you get there.
But that's still helping.
It's still helping, but it's, I think it's very important that it's your vision. It's what you guys wanted that show to be, and I think it's a tremendous effort. I really do.
And it's a good piece. It should be out right now.
It should be on right now. And you know what? We'll make that our next clip when we take another look at the show here in a minute. But before we get there, going back to the early days of the show, back with Eric with an A and the old building and coming there, how has the show changed and evolved from the first idea that you had?
The first idea that we had was to be a magazine type show. And it's like Minnesota Original. And that was too simple, not different enough.
Yeah.
So the style that we decided to take was more documentary, to tell the story. Who is this artist? What are they? And to showcase them.
And not, and you know, sort of like, and as a result of that, not spend so much time in the episode worrying about, well, this is a magazine show, so let's talk about 5 different artists, but devoting the full runtime, whether it's 5 minutes or you've had shows that are an hour long, I think, to a single artist and
Right.
really getting to know them, yeah.
Or be a couple different episodes.
Yeah, and they've done that too. I think your second guest you spread out over 2 episodes.
Some of them 3.
3. I didn't
Because
know 3.
Coda went into the Christmas.
That's true. That's true. That is very true. And one thing I really like too about your show is that you do stretch the idea of art. You know, I feel like that a lot of people, when you tell them, oh, we do an art show or we do this show called Art Beat, you know, they think immediately they're thinking about painting, you know, painting and sculpture and things. But you do, as we've talked about, really extend it to music and dance and poetry. I mean, poetry and comedy are a big part of that program that you just did.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But you want to take all the venues, all the
Right.
genres.
Right, exactly. You want to, I mean, and that's what I admire about what you do, is you're not advocating for one kind of art. It really is about art.
Which is a big umbrella.
Yeah,
Bigger than I think most people realize.
I think so, yeah. Well, and like you said, I mean, even this, what we're doing right now.
Is art.
Exactly. Now, you talked a little bit in the first half about that the show's changing. Is Art Beat going away?
No, Art Beat's still staying there,
Okay.
but we're developing what we call Art Talk.
And what is Art Talk?
Art Talk is a bit different than Art Beat. Art Beat is something that's more uplifting and moving. Art Talk can still do that, but Art Talk, we have some wonderful conversations, intellectual conversations that we've gotten with artists about art. And we didn't want to chase away people from listening to Art Beat. So we decided to bring in Art Talk, which can get into the philosophical things, still be upbeat,
Sure.
but not drive the audience away.
Right, but it sounds like what you're saying is that Art Beat is going to be more about emotion and feeling, and Art Talk is going to be more about ideas.
And philosophical,
That's
why do
very
they
cool.
do this?
Yeah.
What motivates them?
That's very cool. So what's the first episode of Art Talk going to be?
First episode is going to be my lucky charm, Aldo Moroni.
And who is Aldo?
Aldo Moroni is from Chicago, and he went to school at the MCAD,
Okay.
and has been very, very famous since his days at MCAD.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, phenomenal artist.
I know that you have some fantastic stuff recorded with him. When are we going to get to see that?
Hopefully tomorrow night we will finish up with the episode.
Well, there you go. So it'll probably be on the air about the same time as people at home are watching this.
And our second episode is already laid out, and that's with Timothy Berry,
Yeah.
who is a phenomenal, Jamaican. How would you classify him?
I don't know how you would classify that.
Just-
He's very good, though.
Yes,
He's
and he
very
went to
impressive.
the first art school here in Minnesota.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And he's a music teacher
Yeah.
too.
Cool.
Really, really talented.
We'll be seeing those soon. But that's all the time we have tonight. So thank you for joining us on In Focus, Linda. And let's take one more look at the show. Let's take a look at that springboard. What's it called?
Springboard for the Arts, Bounce Bash.
Springboard for the Arts, Bounce Bash. Let's take a look.
Oh, I live there. Before you go on dates.
Our mission is to help artists make a living and a life, and we have a whole set of programs.
It's not rocket science. It's a 10-foot piece of rope with a hook at the end. We got 3 men in the equipment shed out back. One of them is thicker but a little shorter. One of them looks thin as shoelaces, but it's a good half foot longer. If you got first pick, take that one. Looks flimsy. Trust me, you'll break before it comes. These are the days before robots, and this is a city where people leave their empty apartments, leave their empty SUVs, and finally leave their empty shopping carts.
I'd like to thank Linda once again for joining us on In Focus. I'd also like to thank our terrific crew who, as always, has been made up of students who are taking our free monthly How to Make a TV Show class. To sign up for that or any of our other free classes, visit northmetrotv.com or call or email 763-231-2803 or eric@northmetrotv.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next month on In Focus.